The flat was much quieter when he entered than he would like, especially since Tanaka was supposed to be at home. Slowly, and with his chest constricting, he made his way through the flat, looking for his boyfriend. Ryu, is everything okay? It took a bit before he finally heard an answer from the bathroom.
Yeah. Wait a moment, would you?
Inoshita obeyed and waited, but the strange tone in Tanaka's voice set off the already too familiar warning bells in his head. He startled when a loud bang, followed by a colorful curse, sounded from behind the door. Then came another hit, and then the door finally opened. He almost jumped when he saw his boyfriend, his face visibly scrunched by pain and discomfort, even though he obviously tried to hide it, standing on unsteady legs and flexing his fingers just as he did in the morning.
You were home early.
Oh, my last client couldn't come, so I finished earlier. Are you alright? Tanaka frowned and, despite everything, just waved his hand.
I'm fine. I'm just sore, that's all.
Sore from what? You haven't been working out in the last few days. He froze, but it was too late to take it back. Tanaka's frown deepened as he clenched his jaw, the strange look in his eyes making Kenoshita shiver.
What are you getting at this time?
Kenoshita hesitated. He didn't want to argue right after coming home, but he couldn't risk waiting for much longer if Tanaka's condition was caused by something serious. And so he took a leap. I met your former coworker on the way home. This time, it was Tanaka's turn to freeze, tension seeping into his voice.
And?
He said you didn't get fired, but quit from your own initiative. Why did you lie to me about it? Tanaka looked away and tightened his hands into fists, baring his teeth.
It was better that way.
How? Why are you still lying to me? Why would it be better for me to believe you got fired?
Because then you wouldn't ask.
Inoshita flinched, fighting the urge to step back. He hated it. Hated that the first instinct when talking with Tanaka had become to be scared, despite knowing Tanaka would never lay a hand on him. But he couldn't help himself. His mind almost screamed at him to let it be, but he couldn't. He needed to know. He needed answers. Ask about what? Why did you quit, or why do you walk around as if you were drunk? I'm not blind, Ryu. I can see that something is wrong with you. Why don't you want to tell me? This time, Tanaka didn't even answer, only clenched his jaw and pushed around Inoshita to get to the living room. Inoshita grabbed his arm to stop him, only to get it torn from his grip a second later.
Let go of me.
Then tell me what's going on! Tanaka kept staring ahead as he walked away, and then suddenly hissed when he collided with the small cabinet situated by the wall. Inoshita's heart stopped. It wasn't like Tanaka wavered before that. He just walked into that thing despite knowing well it was there. Ryu.
It's nothing.
But Inoshita was not to be fooled this time. He grabbed Tanaka's arm again and turned him around, guilt dripping in his chest when he noticed how difficult it was for Tanaka to keep balance with emotion. Despite Tanaka's protest, he kept gripping his arm and raised 2 fingers in front of his boyfriend's eyes. How many fingers?
Chikara.
How many?
4. Now let go of me.
Inoshita's blood ran cold. Since when do you have double vision?
I don't. Just leave it be.
Why are you pushing me away?
To make it easier for you to leave.
Leave? Why would I leave? Ryu!
What? What do you want me to say?
Truth! That's all I'm asking for.
Fine. My hands and legs tingle and I lose feeling in them. Everything hurts. I can't see or walk properly. There. Content?
Yoshita stayed frozen in place, only motionlessly watching Tanaka stumbling away towards the living room while having to rely on the walls for support. He felt like screaming or crying, perhaps both, his very core rattled with everything that was now laid in front of him. The fact they raised their voices at each other this much was shocking enough, but nowhere near the bomb Tanaka dropped on him. Why didn't he say something sooner? Why? He stayed standing in the hallway, leaning on the wall for his own support as he hid his head in his palms and took a shattered breath in a vain attempt to calm down. Why? He took a few long moments to breathe and stop the shaking of his hands, and in extension to let Tanaka cool off a bit. He knew he needed to go to Tanaka for an explanation and to hopefully take him to the hospital. But if he went closer now, when they were both hurt, he wouldn't achieve anything but another argument. Slowly does it, careful and steady. Taking one last deep, calming breath, he headed after Tanaka into the living room. He found him soon, sitting slumped on the couch with his forehead leaned on his fist, the sight breaking his heart. Ryu. Tanaka hissed quietly as he straightened up, guilt, regret, and pain all mixing in his eyes as he looked up at him.
Hey.
How are you doing now? Tanaka let out a humorless chuckle.
Honestly, I feel like shit.
I'm sorry, Chica, for everything I said to you. I didn't mean to yell at you or hurt you like this. Just make leaving easier on you. Clenching his jaw and battling the pressure building behind his eyes, Enoshita sat down on the couch armrest. Why are you talking about me leaving? I'm not going anywhere.
Yet.
No, not yet. Ever. I love you, remember? What's going on, Ryu? Tell me what I'm going into before I get to the hospital.
Chica, please.
Don't. I deserve to know the truth. Why did you quit? And what happened at the checkup? With a deep sigh, Tanaka turned away to stare at his hands instead. He looked almost small, defeated like in those rare moments when he doubted his own talent and worth. But this was different. This was worse.
So he told you about that too?
Yeah, he said you've been acting strange since then. Tanaka sighed again and squeezed his eyes shut.
Do you know what multiple sclerosis is?
Enoshita's heart stopped for a beat. Of course he knew. He had to know in his line of work. A vicious illness causing the body to attack its own nerves, eventually leading to fatigue, a whole load of problems, and eventually paralysis. Tanaka nodded.
Yeah, that thing. I was feeling weird for some time already, like I couldn't keep up at work. They did some tests at the checkup and said I might be starting to develop it. They're still doing some blood tests, but the chances are that...
He didn't finish and laid his hand on his heaving chest as if even the words were causing him trouble now. But he didn't have to finish. Enoshita was rendered speechless, his brain trying to grasp what was just said. Why didn't you tell me sooner?
Because I know you. You would want to help with everything.
Well, yeah. I'm your boyfriend. Of course I would help.
See, that's the reason. I don't want you to be stuck taking care of me your whole life if the tests show that...
Unable to stop the frustrated groan from leaving his mouth, Enoshita sniffed and wiped the mist from his eyes before standing up. Tanaka Ryunosuke, you are so stupid sometimes. You'll talk later about this, but now you need to go to hospital. He rushed to the hallway to gather their clothes. Get up, I'll help you dress up. Don't walk anywhere.
Chica,
No protests. You need someone to look at you.
no, that's not... I can't get up.
The few words were enough to freeze Enoshita on the spot before he took running back, panic rising in his chest. What do you mean? Tanaka looked up, his eyes mirroring Enoshita's own fright. When he spoke, his voice trembled.
My legs won't move.
The time from the call to the arrival of the ambulance was as short as it could be, and yet, for Enoshita, it was the longest wait he had to endure. He stayed by Tanaka's side the whole time, firmly squeezing his hand while muttering all kinds of reassurances he could think of to keep Tanaka from talking and exhausting himself even more. He wasn't really sure who he was trying to calm down more, but judging by the fear written all over Tanaka's face, it wasn't working on either of them. It was all too fast. Everything went down so damn fast. He robotically recited Tanaka's medical history, trying not to think too much about the fact that his boyfriend might be suffering from a seriously crippling illness. They were admitted immediately after arriving at the hospital, the usually so familiar space now sending shivers down Enoshita's spine. His heart was beating like crazy, and his palms were sweaty as he still clutched onto Tanaka's hand, afraid of what could happen if he let go. His panic reached its peak when he was forced to wait outside the MRI scan to determine the possible damage to the nurse myelin sheets. His footsteps echoed through the empty hallway as he paced around, unable to sit still for even a few seconds, clenching and unclenching his fists as he mentally berated himself for not noticing sooner. Enoshita-kun. Startled, he turned around. An older doctor he remembered from his time working at this very hospital stood opposite him with a sympathetic look on his face. Hirata-san.
It's good to see you again, my boy. Though I'd be happier if we met under better circumstances. I'm assigned to your partner as his attending physician, so I need to ask you a few questions about his state. Do you think you will be able to answer right now?
Enoshita took a short breath and nodded, sitting down where the man motioned him to, his legs still bouncing against his will. Hirata gave him a soft smile and gently squeezed his shoulder.
It's going to be alright. We'll do everything to help your partner, I promise. How long have the symptoms been going on?
I don't know. We haven't been around each other too much the last few weeks. I noticed it just 3 days ago, but he said he was feeling weird for about 2 weeks already. He said they had a suspicion for multiple sclerosis and did some tests. Hirata hummed quietly and checked something in his papers.
Ah, yes, I see we did tests for that. That's also why he was admitted to the scan now. The blood results aren't here yet, but...
Enoshita stilled.
But? I can't tell for sure yet, at least until we do some more tests. But in my experience, this progression seems a bit too fast for multiple sclerosis.
What does that mean?
There are other conditions that can, at first glance, look like multiple sclerosis. Some of them are pretty successfully treatable, others, unfortunately, can be fatal.
The ground swayed under Enoshita, a broken sob escaping his throat as tears hazed his vision. A warm hand covered his own trembling.
There's no need to panic yet. I want you to know about every possibility, but there is really no saying until we have the results. We will do a lumbar puncture after the scan is finished. That should give us the definitive answer. You can be there with him if you want.
But what if...
Shh. As I said, no need to panic yet. We'll know for sure soon, but there is a higher chance that this is something at least partially treatable rather than fatal. Tell me, has he gone down with flu or some other infection lately? Or had some stomach issues?
He felt sick from stomach about 3 weeks ago. But that's not enough to cause paralysis, is it?
Well, there are some conditions that could be an extension of that. Lead poisoning would be one that comes to mind, but there are others with similar symptoms. Some of them are connected to higher age, therefore unlikely for a young guy like him. But nothing is impossible, so we have to test out every possibility.
He gave Enoshita's hand a light squeeze before letting go.
We will see soon.
For now, please try to remain calm, for the sake of you both. Enoshita nodded, still half in daze, his thoughts swirling in his head like a swarm of bees. Lead poisoning. Lethal. He hid his face in his palms and shook his head in despair, trying to chase those words out of his mind. Even multiple sclerosis would be a harsh diagnosis, but to think there were even worse options. Stop. There are also better results. Hirata-san said so. There's still hope. But convincing his mind of that was proving harder than anything else. The fright didn't leave Tanaka's eyes in the slightest, even after the scan. Seeing his always strong and positive boyfriend like this shattered Enoshita's heart to pieces, and despite knowing he had to be strong, his own willpower was wavering. He sat by Tanaka's head the whole time, firmly holding his hand as the large needle pierced his boyfriend's skin above his lower spine to get the hopefully truth-telling fluid. Even when they moved to a normal room, which they fortunately had for themselves, Enoshita didn't let go, hoping to offer them both at least some form of comfort, while he himself battled the tears pooling in his eyes. Come on, put yourself together, damn it. He couldn't stop thinking that if only they went here sooner, if he gave in to his instinct and pried the answer from Tanaka earlier, maybe the situation wouldn't be so bad. Maybe Tanaka would still be able to walk instead of being paralyzed from the waist down. If only...
Chika.
He snapped out of his thoughts and covered Tanaka's hand with both of his. It's fine. Everything will be fine. Just stay still, alright? Don't move around too much. Is your breathing alright?
Yeah. It's a bit harder, but I can still breathe and talk.
Enoshita allowed himself a short, relieved breath. That's good. See, it's going to be fine. His throat tightened as his mind reminded him he was doing the same thing as Tanaka for the last few days. Lying to keep the other from worrying. Tanaka had to pick up on it too and squeezed his hand with much less strength than Enoshita was used to. I'm sorry, Chico. I didn't want this. And you still got stuck with taking care of me. And I made you cry. Shaking his head, Enoshita quickly wiped his eyes and leaned down to press a short kiss on Tanaka's lips before leaning their foreheads together. Stop talking like this. You think I would just leave you because of an illness? Do you think so little of me?
Of course not. You're the best and kindest person I know. That's why I don't want you to waste your life with me if I want to walk properly again. You deserve so much better than that.
Enoshita squeezed his eyes shut, feeling the first tears rolling down his face and onto Tanaka's skin. Don't you dare to decide what I deserve for me. This is my life. I will decide. And if it means I'll be helping you walk for the rest of it, so be it. He pulled away, giving Tanaka what he hoped was a glare. I love you, and I won't leave you because of something out of your control. We are in this together, remember? We will get through it together. Tears glinted in Tanaka's eyes.
I love you too. I'm sorry I made you think I don't so many times before.
Don't worry about that now, okay? Let's take it one step at a time. I'll help you with physio later. No matter what this thing that torments you is, I promise. And with everything else you will need.
I really don't deserve you, do I?
Ryu. The door to the room opened, stopping both of them mid-inhale. Enoshita straightened and his hand tightened around Tanaka's as Hirata nodded at him in a short greeting. Are the results?
Yes, the results from the lumbar puncture just came in.
A quick exchange of glances and a hand squeeze later, both of them turned their attention to the doctor. Enoshita bit the inside of his cheek, the anxiety in his chest only growing on strength and his voice trembling slightly when he spoke. How bad is it?
The good news is it's not multiple sclerosis. The scans showed significant damage to the myelin sheath, but the other tests don't show the readings typical for multiple sclerosis. However, there is one condition that's most probably connected to the stomach sickness you encountered 3 weeks ago.
He turned to Enoshita.
Have you ever heard of Guillain-Barré syndrome?
Finding nothing in his memory, Enoshita shook his head. What is that?
It's a very rare condition in which the immune system attacks the nerves, usually affecting adult males. We don't fully know what causes it, but the most discussed cause is an overly aggressive reaction of the immune system to an infection. In your case, the stomach bug you had. Fortunately, there are ways to successfully fight away this condition.
So that means... The doctor nodded and turned back to Tanaka.
There is a high chance you will make a full recovery. It will take some time, of course, from months to years, and you aren't out of the danger yet. But since you are young and in good condition, with a bit of luck, I believe you won't be affected later in life.
Enoshita had never felt so relieved in his entire life. His strength depleted, He hid his face in the covers as his body trembled with uncontrollable sobs, the tears soaking the sheets. A gentle hand lightly patted his hair, the tender whisper of his name nearby crumbling the rest of the defensive walls he had built before. I'm glad I could bring good news. However, the road to a complete recovery won't be easy. Enoshita finally managed to get himself under control again and sat up to wipe his eyes and blow his nose, nodding. I know. I'll do everything to help. Great. Attention of a physical therapist is one of the key elements in recovery, so this is going to be much easier for you. He checked the papers on his desks again and hummed quietly before giving Enoshita a small smile. Someone will come at any moment to bring painkillers and to start the intravenous immunoglobulin treatment. If nothing gets worse in the next day, we won't even need to use the plasmapheresis. Until then, please keep an eye on the patient along with us. If anything feels wrong, let us know immediately. I will, I promise. The doctor gave him a bit wider smile before heading to the door to make way for the nurses rolling in the drip rack and some other trolley. Biting hard on his lip to stop himself from crying again, Enoshita clutched Tanaka's hand. See, I told you it's going to be fine. I'll take care of you. Tanaka smiled back softly with one of his genuine smiles, most of the fear gone from his eyes. Thank you, love, for everything.